First thing I'd like to say is if you ever feel you need to in this interview, you can say no comment. And okay, we'll begin now. So the first question I'd like to ask you is, what have you been doing now since you've been removed from Octavium?
Uh, well, what I've been doing is just working on my real life. Been really busy with real life stuff. For those who don't know, I was just in Tampa with all of my friends. We had a couple dozen Octavians and other people show up to our event. Well, it wasn't really our event, but we had an Airbnb and we had a lot of fun. So politics is kind of popping off. My work is going really well. I've been really busy with that, and so I've been kind of enjoying. I've been kind of in like a break or a vacation. Obviously, for those who don't know, I still have a server called discord.gg/Xander. You can join it, and that's currently where we're kind of regrouping everyone. But I just kind of been chilling. I haven't really been doing that much. I've been hanging out with the family. I've
Yeah.
been hanging out with friends. I've been involved in my work and politics. I mean, life moves on. No matter what happens, you have to trust in God because God has a plan for you. And it's been going pretty okay. There's a little bit of stuff here and there, a bit of drama here and there, but otherwise, I mean, nothing that's catastrophic. Life moves on, and I'm doing all right.
So recently I have noticed an article on Twitter or X by Extreme Michigan. Do you know about this article?
Uh, yeah, I've seen the article that they put out about me. This is their second hit piece now. They did one, I believe, back in February. They did an article on me, and they talked about how I was a groiper and how I was an America First nationalist and a Christian nationalist, and he's praying the rosary. And then they eventually also released a video where I talked about an ex-girlfriend of mine who killed herself, and they didn't provide the context. They just straight up said, "Yep, his girlfriend killed himself," and that's not true. She died actually about 3 years after she we broke up, and she had multiple boyfriends after me. So I don't want to say it was because of me. All I had said is I dated a girl. She was batshit crazy, and she killed herself. And she told me if I left her, she'd kill herself. Sure, but that doesn't mean she killed herself over me. So they released a video like that exposing me, and I still got third place in the election for state youth chair despite their efforts to attack me. And they just released another hit piece where they expose videos of me doing, the Roman salute out of jokes and irony and skits. They released the document that RCR Mike had created, which is supposed to expose the inner workings of Octavium or whatever. And they also posted the trial video where I sat through a grueling 6 hours of people talking over me, interrupting me, and objecting to my defenses when I had attempted to explain the context and the full story of what exactly is going on. So I've seen their hit piece.
Yeah. So okay. So one of the most important questions I'm going to ask you today is, how did you first meet Freya?
Sure. So I first met Freya, I think through Frisk. No, someone had given me her tag, and what had happened is that they kind of mixed up the story where they said that from the very beginning he's been trying to go after her. So I remember it like this: Frisky was someone who had dated Freya, and he had used her or tried to use her for honeypotting someone known as Volkheim. What happened is that in the middle of this relationship, Frisky had other girls he was talking to, and Freya basically exposed him. But this was a relationship that was sexual, it was degenerate, it was him begging her for nudes. And Frisky at this point in time, I believe it would have been late December 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he was bragging about this girl. He was saying how she was this, she was that. She had everything but her face. She had a butter face. And he was going on about in gross detail about this girl and how she was good like this and that. And I'm looking at these chat logs and I'm like, this poor girl. That's all I was thinking this whole time. And I said something. I said, she deserves a nice guy, something along those lines. And no one really cared except for Frisky. But Frisky was calling her ugly. He was saying this. He was saying that. And all I did was say no. I said, you're going off on this girl, and all she wants is a nice guy. That's all she wants. And you're sitting here trashing her. You're doing this, saying that. And he freaked out. He freaked out. the vibe was ruined, the call was ruined, and he freaked out. And he will say that he freaked out because he was just protecting her. But everyone that was in the call will say that what actually happened is that Frisky got mad because people weren't liking what he was saying about the honeypotting stuff, about the sexual stuff. They thought it was gross. They thought it was disgusting. And I was the only person that stuck up for that said that that's disgusting and gross. And I was against it. And when he was saying that she was this and that, and I was saying, you're a degenerate, I was shutting that shit down. And I don't think he liked that. I think he was offended by it. And I think he would have preferred if I was agreeing with him in this gross context. So not long after that, I had got on her Discord and we talked about the situation with Frisky, with other guys and stuff. And we really just talked about like the drama surrounding her. And then I introduced myself. She would join the Smiths. She would join Greater America, which is what Patrick was at the time. I mean, that was pretty much it. As days, maybe weeks went by, we would talk every now and then. I remember the time I was in Phoenix, I came back, told her about what I do, about politics and stuff, and she was very interested in that. She was like, oh, you're involved in politics. Oh, you're a Catholic. And she told me that she always wanted to be a Christian. She said, I live in an atheist household. I always wanted to be a Christian, but I never could because my parents were militant atheists. And the country I live in is a militant atheist country. And she basically asked me if I'd be willing to help her. I said, sure. So a lot of our it went from talking about Roblox every now and then, talking about like converting, getting her to go to church, teach her how to pray the rosary, doing Bible study. It was getting into an environment of friends in real life that were going to help her to get into a more Christian lifestyle. And then as time went on, I eventually came back to Roblox and I said, hey, I'm going to make a group called Octavium. Do you want to run a Christian business? And she founded Freya's. And that's kind of the introduction of how I met her, how we kind of, how I kind of helped her to become Christian and stuff like that, and helped her to have, good values and stuff. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. At any point in time, did you try and flirt with Freya or vice versa?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, there was a lot of reports saying that you and Freya were flirting with each other and you guys were dating, so I just want you to clarify that.
No, we were not dating. I mean, people, the only person saying that is Piper, and Piper said in a chat log with Incog that she had just framed an innocent man after giving a testimony to RCR that she thought that there was some dating going on or whatever, that she was theorizing that there was some dating going on, right? And keep in mind, Piper had full access to Freya's Discord. She had full access to Freya's Snapchat. And the only thing that Piper recorded was Freya doing ERP with an Aleczaender bot. You would think that this girl who has access to everything would have more than just an inappropriate chat log with an Aleczaender bot. That's the only person that's testifying to this, but otherwise it's completely false. Freya is someone who you could say that we're friends, that we had a professional relationship in the sense that she worked for me or whatever. You could say, phrase it however, that I had an interaction with her. But to say that we were, how's it even possible? Dating? How do you date someone across the Atlantic Ocean? I've said this many times. No. I completely deny any of these allegations. They're completely false. They are based on theories, and they're based on out of context chat logs, which just, well, because he said he owned her, therefore he's dating her, therefore it's a endless loop of doors which lead to a conclusion. That's what they're doing with this.
Yeah. Do you regret any of the comments or jokes you've made, and do you see how people could see them weirdly or potentially see them as grooming?
I mean, here I'll say this. I think I should have had better optics. I think that I should have been more careful what I said because I've been taken the wrong way. As for regretting them, there's some regret. There's some in my mind. I'm like, I could have said that better. I could have maybe done a little less trolling and stuff. But for the most part, a lot of this humor, like you're probably gonna bring it up later, like 17 is too old to groom or whatever. That was in a message to Xavier's. That wasn't in a reference to Freya. That wasn't in reference to anyone but Xavier's, because Xavier's was, I think, 17 at the time when I had said that. And we're talking, I don't remember what we were talking about, but we were talking about like development and stuff. And then we're talking about how he's lazy. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I have to, the context was like, maybe I have to quote unquote groom you into being my loyalist, which was a joke because of the allegations before that, because there was talks before the RSR document of me grooming people and stuff. And I'm like, oh, maybe I'll have to groom you into it. And Xavier's, I believe, is 18 now. But, it's things like this that they snip and then say, he said this. It's in reference to Freya. That's what he's referring to. It's like, no, it's not even about Freya. This was to Xavier's, who is a guy, unless they're alleging that I'm also gay, which I believe everyone knows that I'm not a homosexual. That is a genuine belief. And I'll get into that later, but I don't know if I have regrets. It's kind of a case by case basis on the things that I've said. Some of the things that I've said were said when I was as young as 20 years old, maybe even younger. When you make mistakes, you learn from them. And if I wouldn't have made that mistake before, I would have probably made that mistake of that joke later down the road, because in my mind, I never saw it as a joke that was inappropriate. I mean, you go on Twitter, people are saying she was 17 and 11 months and 29 days and 23 hours and 59 minutes years old, whatever. People say these jokes all the time in public and online circles. Me saying it on Discord, I don't think makes it that much different. It's a very valid joke. And the context behind jokes like that is the fact that people make a really big deal when a girl is basically 18. Like, oh my gosh, we have to analyze this and make sure this guy isn't a sick predator because he interacted with a girl who was a minute before turning 18 years old. That's the joke. It's a very valid joke, because this idea that once you turn 18, a girl is fully legal. She can do OnlyFans. She can go screw a 1,000 guys and do whatever she wants. That is a total false idea. I don't think it should be that way. I think there's a gray area before a girl turns 18. And that's the context behind the joke. That's why I make fun of these ideas, because I think that this is a morally gray area. And I think that, let's make an example. I don't think the 19-year-old flirting with a 17-year-old is pedophilia or grooming or anything like that. I mean, even a 20-year-old, I don't think that that's grooming or even pedophilia. And there are people out there that think that. Making fun of these things can be uncomfortable for some people, but it's true. It has to be said, because otherwise there's going to be a situation where a 20-year-old interacted with a 17-year-old who turns 18 in a week or so, and everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, this guy's a pedophile. This guy is a sick piece of shit freak. What is he doing? Ruin this man's life right now. I can't make fun of that. Making fun of that is inappropriate. Making fun of that makes me a weirdo who deserves to get exposed. I don't agree with that. That's all I've ever said and joked about. I think it's very valid. Jokes like that, I think, are valid, and I don't regret them whatsoever. Now as for saying something like, oh yeah, I own Freya, it's like, yeah, I mean, I could have framed that differently. I know it can look bad, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So, I want to address your views on topics like the age of consent. Obviously, as you said earlier, you made a joke about a 17-year-old can't be groomed. And, in the trial, you said that this was out of context. Can you tell me your actual views on the age of consent?
Well, my actual views on the way it is currently in the West is it's fine. I've never advocated to decrease it or disband it or decrease it. I've never argued anything in regards to the AOC debate. I've always stood by what the laws are currently in my country and in my state. I've always said how it currently is fine. And if it ever comes up, I mean, I don't know if I'd say I defend it, but I'm indifferent to it. It's like, I don't really care. It's how it is in my state. In my state, it's currently 16. And the early Juliet laws have a maximum of a 5-year age gap. Anything over is illegal or whatever. In regards to anything under 16, I mean, that's the way it is in my state. I've never went out of my way to defend that. I've never went out of my way to attack that. And I've always maintained that in discussion. If it comes up, I'm like, well, that is the way it is in 90% of the world. In some countries, it's 18. In some states, it's 17. There's debate, but I guess like even in countries like in Florida, I guess it's 18, right? But they allow for a closing age gap exception for as much as 10 years. And in the event that there is a breaching of that, let's say it's a 30-year-old with a 17-year-old, right? It's a reduced punishment. I don't think it's prison time, but it's like a fine or something. It's like a small, very, like, I think you call it a misdemeanor, right? So, it's a very gray area. It's what I was talking about earlier with it. It's a very gray area. I mean, I personally would never date someone that young. I'd never want to, marry someone around that age. I personally wouldn't. But if some other guy, decides that he's going to talk to a 17-year-old and the parents are cool with it and his parents are cool with it, and this guy is like 20 years old or something, and it's a wholesome thing, I don't really see, the big deal. I mean, it's a gray area. I mean, it depends on the guy. I mean, if this guy, let's say this guy, okay, I'll put it this way. Like, if it's like a 22-year-old and he hooks up a 16-year-old, like, I think that's bad. I mean, I'd say that's pretty bad. Maybe legal action. I don't know. It depends on the context. It depends on the chat log. But it's like the girl is 17. She turns 18 in like a week. And the parents are cool with him talking to her. And his parents are cool with him talking to her. And they plan a future together. I don't really, there could be concerns about it. You could say, oh, that's not for me. You could say that, but to say that guy's a pedophile, to say that guy needs his life ruined and that he's an evil piece of shit, I disagree with that. And that's always been my take on this subject. I've been saying this for years, that we need to be very careful about exposing people, because some people, there is a gray area, and it should really determine it, or rather, it should really be based on the chat log. Are they sending nudes? Because then that breaches CP laws, right? Or CSAM, I believe. There's a lot of context that matters in these situations, and that's all I've ever said. And that's why I will joke about these subjects, because it needs to be said, needs to be talked about. Because I remember at one point, Clemens, who was 18, maybe 17 years old, there were allegations that he did ERP with a 17 or a 16-year-old. And people were trying to ruin his life. They were trying to swat him, trying to dox him, trying to ruin his life. And this was back in 2023, I believe. And I said, well, wait a second. I said, this is a 2-year age gap, and it's an allegation. Keep in mind, this was an allegation that wasn't even proven. There was missing context. There was a lot of missing stuff. And I said, well, there needs to be more research into this. Did this actually happen? And if it did, is it really something to ruin this guy's life over? That's all I said. And at the time, everyone said Aleczaender is right. That's a very fair point. And it is a fair point. That's all I've ever said about these situations, that when they occur. Obviously, my situation's a lot different. They are out of context. They are unproven allegations of, grooming. And you ask the court, you say, well, what kind of grooming did he do to the girl? And they're just like, well, it was just general grooming. General grooming. What is general grooming her in general? Grooming her to be my friend? Grooming her to be my Roblox loyalist? Grooming her for what? And they couldn't tell me what she was being groomed for in the trial. This is what I'm talking about. This is an interaction. I'm guilty of having a friendly interaction with a girl who turns 18 in a month. It's like unbelievable. In my opinion, it's unbelievable. It's exaggerated. It's a mount of a molehill. It's completely ridiculous. And even if 90% of that document, even if 90% of those allegations were true, it's not even half as bad as they make it out to be. Hot take, but it really is. I mean, this is not some like 13-year-old girl we're dealing with, or some 14-year-old girl we're dealing with. This is a girl who is 17, and they're saying she's a year younger. And it's like, well, we've seen the ID, right? She won't dox the ID, but we've seen the ID. And let's say that that's a total bullshit lie. Okay, worst case scenario, she's 16. There you go. 1 year difference. Oh man, does that now make me an evil piece of shit in a worst case scenario because I interacted with her and made one joke in my life about her? I think it's ridiculous. I think it's completely inflated. And I think anyone with an IQ over 105 understands that and agrees with that. Leutgard has joked about, dating and screwing femboy twinks. It's like a femboy is a guy that looks like a boy, and they can be 18 and older, but it's like, and I'm not trying to say throw him under the bus. I'm just saying, like, so he can joke about pounding femboys in the ass and posting gay porn in the servers of Jesus Christ, but I make a joke about, I make fun of my enemies for saying that I'm grooming someone and I get the death penalty. I think that's ridiculous. It's hypocritical. It's ridiculous. I don't agree with that. Never agree with that.
Okay, so when you ran Octavium, if I'm not mistaken, you made a document called the Farah Laws, which basically set up laws to crack down on online dating and other degeneracy. People have
Mm-hmm.
attacked you, stating that the laws were too lenient and should have been more strict. What's your opinion on this?
Uh, when we wrote them, that was, kind of a draft, and we did plan to make them a little bit more strict. But I think the way they were framed was pretty good. I don't remember. I didn't even write it up, to be honest. That was Tan City and the Senate and some other high command who wrote up that document. I didn't even write it, but what I remember reading is that, online dating was a punishable offense. Okay. If you're flirting, if you're joking, if you're doing anything in regards to online dating with someone, I think it was either a warning or like a temporary ban, right? That was the first level of the laws. The second level of the laws was full on online dating, sexting, online dating, anything to do with intimate nature. Okay. The first offense for that was a ban. It was a temporary ban for an undisclosed amount of time, usually between 1 to 3 to 4 to 5 months. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, I'll be correct if I'm wrong. Um, and then there was a third stage, which was for pedophilic, rape, offenses, right? And that was a permanent, unappealable ban. Um, so that was Guevara laws, and in those Guevara laws, they had a clause for age gap exceptions where it wasn't you would get off scot free if you online dated someone. It was a age gap exception for reduced punishment, and one of the examples was like a 2 or 3 year age gap. If someone was, you know, what was the example they used? Like 19 and a 17-year-old, and there was like some flirting, something boarding and online dating, and they got caught. It was, it would be a temporary ban that could be appealed, or maybe it was a permanent ban, but it could be appealed. There was things like that, which I believe is very fair. I believe if you're 18 or 19 and you flirted up with a 19 or a 17-year-old, I mean, that's gross. That's an e-girl. Don't online date. Don't do that shit. But do I hate you for it? Does God hate you for it? Do I believe that it's unappealable, unforgivable, and that in 5 years later you're not going to change? I don't agree with that. And people like Aethel were saying, like, well, even if it's like a 16-year-old who online dated, no, he used a 14. He said even if it's like a 14-year-old that did that stuff, like there, if you online date at 14, like you could be a pedophile 6 years. Like he actually said that. He actually was saying, like, yeah, like there's a pattern with this stuff, and if someone does that, like it's grounds for potential pedophilia. It's like, dude, like any person that's watched porn, okay, there's a risk of becoming a serial rapist or a pedophile, according to Ted Bundy, according to various sources. That doesn't guarantee it's going to happen. The percentage of that happening is probably low. I don't know the statistics on it, but he was making this point that, once you've engaged in degeneracy, there's no going back. You're forever a degenerate. You're forever going to not be able to recover from that. And not to put him on blast, but I said, let me ask something, Aethel. I said, you have a girlfriend, right? And he's like, yeah. And I said, and you're basing this off of Christian morality, right? And he's like, yes. And I said, I'm not trying to expose you. And he says it's a public VC, so I can talk about this. I said, do you have premarital sex with your girlfriend? And he's like, well, he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, wait a second. I said, that's a cardinal sin. That's a cardinal sin that requires repentance and is regarded as degeneracy according to the church, according to Christian morals. I said, you do that, you have a sex addiction, let's say, that's okay. But porn addiction, online sex addiction, you might be a pedophile. Where's the logic in that? And he went silent and we talked about it. But it's like this notion that he was putting out there that there should be a permanent, unappealable ban for 14-year-olds who asked a man 2 years older than them for thigh pics. It's like, yeah, like that's gross. That's gross. That's degenerative. I don't like that shit. But should they be permanently banned from society for that shit that they did? No, that's retarded. Which at this point, we should ban people permanently for watching porn once in their lives. That's not something that I do or would do, but it's like, really? We should ruin people's lives over these small offenses that are being committed? And that's all I did. When they first came to me before the document and said, remove James Earhart, remove Eckerdart, remove Oblivel, remove Ashley, remove this guy. And for the record, I did remove those people when they asked me to, but I raised the concern. I said, should they really be permanently banned without appeal? I disagree with that. James is someone who does not like me. He leads the Teutonian Octavian Rulers Guard division. He does not like me. I don't like him. But it has to be said. I don't care how much that guy hates me. I think he deserves a platform, and I think that he doesn't deserve to get his life ruined or his online career ruined over what he did 2 years ago when he was 14. He was being stupid. His brain is barely developed. At 14, a boy's maturity is nowhere near mature. I think that that's unfair and it should be used against him forever. That's just my take on those things.
Okay. So, I was just wondering, have any of the allegations actually affected you in your real life, and if so, how?
Not really. It's actually funny because I went to Tampa, and a lot of these guys in the AF circles and the politics circles already know about this shit. Like they knew about Roblox way before, so they already kind of were in tune. And they were. I don't know if this is a good thing to say, but they were literally like, dude, that's awesome. You're just like Trump. You're getting allegations and stuff. And they were like glazing me for. And I'm like, guys, like, listen, like, let's not joke about this. Let's not glaze it. Like, let's just move on in a good way. But they unironically thought that it was kind of cool. This Lego dictator's getting accused and it's kind of awesome. And the whole time, though, I was kind of cracking down on it. I was kind of like, I'm not really. Maybe like a few months later, I'll be more open to like joking about it, but it's like not right now. As for like family, real life, work, I mean, not really. I mean, maybe like two people I've talked to about it in the workplace, and it's not really that big of a deal. One of them thought it was really funny and stupid, and the other one thought like, yeah, like it's a little concerning, but like, this is like Roblox, and it's not like it's a real life girl. It's not like there was actual legal charges, stuff like that. So it's like, move on. Local politics, similar story. It's people are very supportive of me. What I'll say is this: is that everyone's been very supportive of me. No one has crashed out on me. I've lost nothing, or I've lost very little, I should say, in real life because of this, and life moves on. As for the internet, I mean, yeah, you have all these people spurting out in these servers. I have spies in the Stalemated server and the Octavium server and stuff, and I see what they say, and it's like, yeah, like of course the average Etonian is gonna hate me. Wow, really? Titonia hates me? Whoa, Stalemated hates me? They don't like me? It's like, yeah, I kind of expected that to happen. But everyone else, people in my circles, my real life circles, I don't want to say they don't care, but they don't think of it as a big deal. They see it as a very small setback. Some of them see it as something awesome, for lack of a better description. I don't endorse that notion. I don't think people should say this is awesome or a good thing, but life moves on. People move on, is what it is. I'm enjoying my life. I'm going to continue enjoying my life. And hey, I've got God at the end of the day. I've got God. I've got Jesus Christ. I'm going to depend on him no matter what. And we're going to get through this. So,
Yeah. And my final question is, so now that the trial is over and things are starting to calm down, what's your plan going forward? And do you think your reputation is forever tarnished, or do you think you can easily recover from this?
well, I mentioned this in my truth video, the video titled "The Truth," where I said we've been through this before, and someone close to me told me, you shouldn't mention these previous scenarios, and I said, why not? And they're like, oh, it's just bad optics, and it's like, I was 15 years old, 16, I think at the latest, 14, 15, maybe 16 in the early part. It's like there's nothing there that could be recycled. And if it is, shame on you because I was a child and I did nothing, barely anything back then. But the point that I was making was that we've been through this before. Anyone that's seen the Root Media video they did on me, there was what was it, like 20,000 people that had seen the carpet video, that had heard the allegations, and they accused me of being this sexual groomer back then, saying that I was in my 20s when I was actually a 16-year-old boy. So they said I was destroyed then. We had probably 1/20th the following we have now. We didn't have a group. My account got deleted. My main account got deleted. My Twitter account got deleted later down the road. I lost all my groups. I lost everything. And I actually retired. It was so bad that I had to like take a vacation for a few months. And then I came back. I made a new group and we were back. We rallied a lot of people. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it was a lot of people for my DDR group. People said in 2019 that I was finished, that I was done for. They swatted me, they doxed me, they sent bomb threats to my house. We went through the exact same thing that we're going through now. And people really think that this time for real, I'm finished. I don't want to sound egotistical. I've been talking to God about this, and God's saying, "Hey, you got to be humble. Like, I get it. You want to go off on these people, but you got to be humble. You're not going to do yourself any favors being egotistical." And God's right when he says that. So I don't want to go off and say I'm invincible because I'm not invincible. I am human. Behind the scenes, I do have emotions. I am hurt. You know, like my appetite, for instance, has been kind of low lately. I eat 1 meal a day again. Before I was eating 2 meals a day. Sleeping wise, I don't get as much sleep that much. I'm getting better with it, but it's like I am human. People want to hear that I'm human, and it's like I am human. That's why I'm on the camera. I am a real human being. I'm not some Lego dictator. I am a real human being. So people probably like to hear that and want to hear that I'm suffering, for better or for worse. Yes, I have emotions, and yes, I'm not invincible. There you go. But that being said, we're doing well. Life is good, and I have nothing to fear but fear itself. No, I fear no one but God himself. I don't fear these people going after me. I don't fear these people trying to threaten me with these death threats, with these "I'm going to show up to your house," predator style, and confront you with the document. I'm not scared of that stuff, dude. Even if you killed me, I have God. You know what I mean? Like, I have God. I have something beyond this world that hopefully you also have beyond this world. I'm here to do God's will. People are saying, why is Aleczaender using the word of Christ? Aleczander shouldn't use the word of Christ. It should be as far away from God as possible. And it's like, are you even a Christian? Like, if you're in the worst of sin, wouldn't the first thing you would do is go right to God about it and walk with God through it and repent and recover? I don't think the first thing you do as a Christian when you sin is distance yourself from God and ignore God. Not that I have committed any sins. Well, I am, but like not in the sense of what I'm being accused of. And some of these people are like, stop, not my followers, people outside my following are like, stop using God. You need to stop talking about God because you can't represent Christ. It's like, have you even read the Bible? Do you even know about the disciples, Mary Magdalene? Did you know that Mary Magdalene was someone who went out and fraternized with men and did degenerative stuff and then came to Christ and then did it again and came back to Christ? Unbelievable. Some of these people, what they're saying. That's not how that works. That's not how that works. And as a matter of fact, God uses any sins you commit as a testimony to recover and bring other people to the faith. Because what I go through, other people might go through. Other people might go through what I'm going through, and they'll see my strength and my faith and say, you know what? That guy's got strong faith, and maybe I should seek Christ. What do you think about that for a second? Me being myself and making jokes and whatnot is not going to turn people away from Christ. No one's going to look at me and say, wow, that guy is such a bad example of a Christian. I'm never becoming a Christian again. No one is saying that. No one has ever said that to me. People have come to me and said they're close to God, and they're saying God bless, and they're saying keep it up, and they're praying for me. People have said that people have come to me and said that I've inspired them to look more into faith, to look more into God. I've been told that before. No one's told me like, oh my gosh, because of what you're doing, I can't be a Christian anymore. Well, then you weren't a real Christian. If you're basing your faith based on my actions, then you were never a true Christian. Your relationship should be with God first first and foremost. That's why at the end of every speech, after people say Ave Alexander, they say Ave Christus Rex. There's a reason for that. God comes first. Always. Always. So I'm doing okay. We're doing well. God's got me. And we're gonna prevail, you know, we're gonna survive. We've got our server, we've got big plans for the future, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I think that is everything. Freihardt, if there's anything you want me to add, please tell me.
Are you talking to you or me?
I think he's talking to you. I don't know. I'm not
We're
sure.
about to find out very soon here.
Oh, this is really inconvenient.
Talking to
He's
Alec.
talking to
Oh,
you.
there we go. Technical difficulties. We're back. It's over and we're back. It's over and we're back. Right. I mean, not really. It's all I'll say is that, you know, I mean, look at both sides. You know, I've talked to some people who are on the other side, and the most common problem I run into is like, I don't got time to watch a 46-minute video. But you've got time to sit through a 6-hour trial and read a 200-page document. But you won't spend 46 minutes listening to my point of view. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous. What else should I say while I have the podium? I mean, that's pretty much it. Obviously, like I keep saying, these things are being exaggerated. They are making mountains out of molehills. This really isn't that bad of a situation. And even if half the stuff in there was concrete as concrete is, and even if the allegations were 80% true, even then there's questions to be raised about, okay, well, does Aleczander really deserve to be destroyed? Because these are people going out and trying to ruin his life over this, because people are trying to do that. RCR Mike literally said, you know, I disavow his life being ruined. He even disavowed the trial. He just wanted to expose what was going on to be a concerned citizen, which is kind of a fair thing to do. You know, he disavows the pedo allegations. He's done a lot more than I've given him credit for. I'm going to be honest here, despite everything that I've gone through because of that document. But I'm just saying, you know, the original source of this has said those things. And even the original source thinks that people are going a little too crazy over this. People are going a little too hard over this. And that's why I say, like, well, even if 80% was true, is it really worth it to go out of here and say that I can't interact with my community, that I'm a threat to younger people or something like that? If you really believe that, then I think something is seriously wrong with you, because you have other people. I've given examples. Mors Reum, Albert Hilarium, Journal John 12, sexting boys and girls as young as 13. Their oldest victim, 15, maybe 16 on one or two occasions. Okay? Dozens of victims. Concrete proof of them sexting them. Everything. And then there's me. You've got one person, not a single victim, not a single victim. Allegations of grooming. No specific type of grooming, just that my interactions were grooming. Do the math. Do the research. We all know what's going on here. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. This is insane. That's all I have to say.
Well, I think that is...
One more thing.
Oh,
Christ is king. Christ is king. That's it.
Okay. Well, I think that is now everything, unless Freihardt now has something more to add. Yeah. That should be everything. Okay, well, it was good talking to you. Have a great rest of your day or night, wherever you are.
Thank you, Leopold. Really appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on your show here. I really appreciate you seeing the other side of the story. Freihardt, yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys for everything you're doing. You know, God bless, and that's all.